I'm the kind of person who reads the fine print and keeps receipts in a shoebox labeled by year. I'm 44, married, 2 kids, decent job in municipal IT, and my idea of reckless spending is upgrading to name-brand trash bags. I like things predictable, balanced budgets, clear consequences. That's probably why I bought the safe. It wasn't some macho I need a gun safe thing. My dad died last year and left behind the kind of small chaos older men collect. Coffee cans of screws, unlabeled keys, folders of warranties. My mom downsized, and I got dragged into clearing out a storage unit we'd been paying on for years because it's got some good stuff in it. It mostly had dust and regret. At a local estate sale a few weeks later, I saw an old floor safe, heavy, ugly, industrial, with a dial like something from a bank lobby. The seller said it came out of an old office building. It looked like security. It looked like control. I paid $150 for it, thinking I'd store passports and birth certificates and maybe the emergency cash my wife, Claire, always insisted we should have, just in case. I did not expect it to come with cash already inside. The safe was a beast. I had to borrow my neighbor's hand truck and bribe my buddy Mark with beer to help get it into my garage. The seller had shrugged when I asked about the combination. No idea, he said. We never got it open. That's why it's cheap. I told myself it would be a project. Puzzle. Something harmless. I even watched a few lock-picking videos like I was going to become a safe-cracking genius overnight. Mostly, I just stared at it on weeknights after everyone went to bed, turning the dial slowly, listening for clicks like I was trying to hear the future. Claire rolled her eyes at it. You bought a giant metal box you can't open. It's an investment, I said, half joking. Worst case, it's cool decor. You don't do decor, she said. You do spreadsheets. That's true. And the spreadsheet in my head said, cost $150, potential upside unknown, potential downside basically none. I was calm about it. Rational. A safe is a safe. It's not like it could reach out and rearrange my life. I didn't know yet that money doesn't just sit there. Creates gravity. After a week of failing the listen and guess method, I did what a responsible adult does. I called a locksmith. He came on a Saturday morning. Older guy named Javier with thick hands and a patient expression. He looked at the dial, tapped the door, nodded like he recognized an old friend. Old Diebold, he said. Solid. Someone wanted this to last. How much to open it? I asked. 200 if I can manipulate it, he said. More if I have to drill. I should have stopped there. Paying more to open a safe than I paid for the safe is the kind of math I usually hate. But curiosity is a weird expense. It doesn't feel like spending until it's already gone. Javier worked quietly for almost an hour. The garage smelled like cold metal and motor oil. My kids were inside watching cartoons. Claire was doing laundry, occasionally peeking out like she expected Javier to pull out a cursed artifact. Then there was this soft, final click. Javier smiled. Got it, he said. My stomach tightened in this ridiculous, hopeful way. Like maybe there'd be a coin collection or old documents, or at least something that made my $350 total outlay feel justified. He swung the door open, and I saw stacks of bills. It was money in a way you only see in movies. Rubber-banded bundles, brown and faded, packed tight into the bottom like someone had tried to make the inside of the safe breathe through paper. For a second, I honestly thought it was Monopoly money. It had that same stale, dusty look. But then I saw the faces. Ulysses S. Grant, Benjamin Franklin, Andrew Jackson. I stared so hard my eyes watered. Javier whistled low. Well, that's not nothing. Claire came into the garage, saw my face, then saw the safe. She stopped like she'd hit an invisible wall. Oh my God, she whispered. I didn't touch anything at first. I just looked because touching would make it real. Javier leaned closer, then backed away like he'd suddenly remembered he had a life. You want me to close it back up? He asked. I heard myself say, very calmly, how much do you think that is? He shook his head. Could be a few grand. Could be a lot. You need me to change the combo? Yes, I said immediately. Yes, please. He said a new combination, wrote it on a card, and handed it to me like it was a loaded weapon. He didn't ask questions. He didn't touch the money. He took his payment, wished us a good day, and left fast. When the garage door shut, Claire and I just stood there with the safe open like it was a mouth. Then she said, "We should count it." And I said, "We should not do anything stupid." That was the first lie I told myself, that I was still the calm one. We waited until the kids were asleep. I brought the bundles to the kitchen table and laid them out like evidence. The bills were older than anything I'd ever held. Some were crisp. Some were brittle. The rubber bands disintegrated when I touched them, leaving sticky dust on my fingers. We counted slowly because the whole thing felt like a trap that would snap shut if we moved too fast. 10,000, 20, 50. When we finished, we sat back. Just over $74,000 in cash. It was a lot, but not retire tomorrow a lot. It was pay off a car, fix the roof, stop holding your breath a lot. It was relief tastes like pennies a lot. Claire started laughing. Small at first, then bigger, like the sound was bubbling out of someplace she'd been keeping sealed. "I can't breathe," she said, wiping her eyes. "Do you know what this could do for us?" I thought about our credit card balance, the home equity line we used when the HVAC died, the way I'd been quietly moving money between accounts to make the numbers look less scary. I thought about how Claire's mom had been hinting she might need help soon. I thought about college. I swallowed and said, "We don't know where it came from." "It came from the safe," Claire said, like I was being dramatic. "We bought it. It's ours." I opened my mouth to argue, then stopped because the greedy part of my brain whispered, "Is it? That's the thing about found money. It doesn't just offer solutions. It offers permission." The next morning, I did what I always do when I'm anxious. I researched. I went down a rabbit hole about old safes and abandoned property laws and found cash tax implications, like this was a normal Saturday project. Most of what I found was vague, full of "it depends," which is the opposite of soothing for me. Then I started looking at the bills more carefully. That's when I saw it. Faint ink stamps on some of the 20s and 50s, partially faded, like someone had tried to wash them but couldn't. On one bill, I could make out a word, "evidence." My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. I pulled another bundle apart. More stamps. Another word, "county." The money wasn't just old. It had been handled by law enforcement. I didn't tell Claire right away. I told myself I needed more information before I panicked her. That sounds noble, but if I'm being honest, I also wanted a few more minutes where the money still felt like a gift. I took a photo of the stamp and texted it to Mark, my buddy who has a weird obsession with true crime podcasts and local history. He texted back almost immediately, "Dude, that looks like evidence stamp. Where did you get that?" I didn't answer. I just stared at my phone until it felt like it was staring back. Mark came over that night with a six-pack and the kind of excitement you usually see in teenagers planning something dumb. He stood at my kitchen table, leaned over the bills and said, "Okay, this is insane." "Not helpful," I said. He pulled out his phone and started typing. "Hold on. There was a big robbery in the 70s around here. My dad used to talk about it. Armored car or something. They never found all the money." I felt my throat tighten. "Mark, stop." But he was already scrolling, eyes wide. "Okay, yeah. 1976. Two guys hit a cash depot outside town. Like real old school. One got caught later, one disappeared. Money never fully recovered." Claire walked in mid-sentence. "What money never recovered?" Mark, because he has the subtlety of a lawnmower, said, "Your husband might have bought stolen robbery money." Claire's face went blank. Then she looked at me. "Is that true?" "I don't know," I said carefully, "but some of the bills are stamped, like evidence." Claire stared at the cash like it had suddenly turned to mold. "So what do we do?" And here came the first major twist, the one that recontextualized everything. The money wasn't just found. It was connected. Not a windfall, a thread. And I was holding it. I heard myself say, "We call the police." Claire's eyes flashed. "We do not." That night was the first time in a long time that Claire and I fought about something that wasn't parenting or chores. It was pure values, pure fear. "We have debt," she said, voice shaking. "We have stress. We finally have a chance to breathe and you want to hand it over because some bill has a stamp?" "It's not about a stamp," I snapped. "It could be evidence from a robbery. That's not ours." "We bought the safe," she said. "We paid money. It's ours." "It doesn't work like that." "Then how does it work?" she challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, we do everything right, and we still struggle. We still get slammed every time something breaks. And now we find something that could help and you want to light it on fire to be, what? A good citizen?" Her words hit because they weren't entirely wrong. I do like being the good citizen. I like being able to look in the mirror and see someone who did the correct thing. But I also liked the idea of paying off our credit cards. I liked it more than I wanted to admit. So we compromised in the dumbest way possible. We decided we'd hold on to it for a week while I figured out what we were legally supposed to do. That was me pretending I was in control while the money quietly took over. I spent the week calling around without naming myself. I talked to a tax guy who said found cash is taxable income, but the bigger issue is provenance. I talked to a lawyer's office that told me, basically, if it's linked to a crime, do not spend it. I talked to nobody who gave me a clean answer that made it feel safe. Meanwhile, Claire started acting like the money was already spent. She wasn't reckless, not in a cartoon way. She just loosened. She looked at new cars online. She talked about replacing our ancient couch. She mentioned helping her mom move closer. And I felt myself softening too. The idea of relief has a sound like a rope going slack. I started hearing it in my head. Then Mark texted me a link. It was an old newspaper scan from 1976. Grainy black and white photo of a cash depot, cops, tape. Headline about the robbery. I skimmed until my eyes snagged on a name. One of the suspects, still at large, had my last name. Not a common one. Not Smith. My last name. My hands went cold. I clicked the article. The suspect was described as a local man in his 20s, with a photo so blurry it barely looked human. But the jawline, the eyebrows, it reminded me of someone. My dad. Except the dates didn't line up, not exactly. My dad would have been a teenager in 1976. Too young. Unless it wasn't my dad. Unless it was my uncle. The uncle no one talked about. The uncle my dad always referred to as trouble and then changed the subject. That was twist number 2. The money wasn't just criminal. It might be family. I went to my mom's house the next day with the article printout folded in my pocket like a secret infection. My mom answered the door with a dish towel on her shoulder and a cautious smile. She still thinks of me as the reliable one. The one who fixes Wi-Fi and sets up automatic bill pay. I sat at her kitchen table and said, "Did Dad have anything to do with a robbery in 1976? Her face changed so fast it was like someone turned off a light. "Where is this coming from?" she asked. I put the article on the table and watched her eyes move over it. When she saw the name, she flinched. "Oh," she whispered. "Oh no, it's Uncle Ray," I said. My mom closed her eyes for a long moment. "Your father swore he didn't know where Ray went," she said softly. "He swore he hadn't helped him. Did he?" I pressed. She opened a drawer and pulled out an old envelope of photos. She found one of my dad and Ray together, young, leaning on a car, both grinning. Ray had the same jawline as the blurry photo. My mom's voice went thin. "Ray disappeared. Years later your father got a package in the mail. No return address. Just cash. Not this much. A couple thousand. Your father panicked. He buried it in the backyard. Then dug it up and put it in the bank as savings like that made it clean." I stared at her. "And you're telling me this now?" She looked ashamed. "Your father wanted to keep you out of it. He said money like that ruins families." I thought about the safe from the estate sale. Did Dad own a safe? My mom swallowed. "He had one for a while. Said it was from work. I never knew where it went." Twist number 3 slid into place with a sick click. The safe might have been my father's, and the money might have been hidden by him, kept like a time capsule of guilt. So I wasn't just holding stolen money. I might have inherited a cover-up. I drove home shaking, but still doing that calm person routine where I obey traffic laws and use my blinker like my life wasn't unraveling. Claire was in the living room sorting mail. I sat down and told her everything. The article, the name, my mom's confession, the safe possibly being my dad's. Claire listened, eyes glossy, hands gripping a stack of coupons like they were going to float her. When I finished, she said, "So your dad hid it, and now it's ours." "No," I said immediately. "If Dad hid it, that's worse. That means we're connected." Claire leaned forward. "Connected how? The robbery was 50 years ago. Everyone involved is dead or retired. The statute of limitations." "It was armed robbery," I said. "I don't know what applies. And even if there's no legal risk, there's moral risk. There's—" I stopped, because the word I wanted was curse, and that felt dramatic. Claire exhaled hard. "Okay, so we turn it in. We do the right thing. And then what? We go back to being stressed and broke and proud?" Her eyes filled. "My mom's rent went up again. She's choosing between meds and groceries sometimes. I haven't told you because you're already carrying so much." That hit like a punch. Because she was right too. She'd been hiding financial fear the same way my mom did, the same way my dad did. Like secrecy was a form of love. Money was revealing something ugly in all of us. We'd rather protect our image of stability than admit we're scared. I said, "We can't spend it." Claire whispered, "We already did." My heart stopped. "What?" She looked down. "I took 5,000. Just 5. I paid off Mom's back rent and her pharmacy balance. I was going to tell you after you calmed down." I couldn't speak. Twist number 4. The money wasn't hypothetical anymore. It had already changed hands. We'd crossed the line. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing the bills with evidence, stamped on them, slipping through a landlord's hands, through a pharmacy register, into circulation like a ripple. I got up at 2 a.m. and went into the garage. I opened the safe again, counted. Sure enough, it was short. Claire followed me out, barefoot on cold concrete. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I couldn't watch her suffer. I wanted to be furious. Part of me was, but a bigger part of me understood, and that understanding scared me more than anger would've. We stood there, the safe open between us, and I made a decision that felt like relief at the time, a false resolution. "We'll put it back," I said. "We'll replace the 5,000 from savings. Then we'll turn in the whole thing anonymously. No names, no connection." Claire nodded fast, like a person grabbing a life raft. "Yes, okay, we can do that." I told myself, we'll do the right thing and we'll be safe. I even believed it for about 12 hours. Because the next morning, there was a note taped to my front door. Plain paper, block letters. "Did you open it?" No signature, no explanation, just that. My mouth went dry. I looked up and down the street. Nothing obvious. No car idling. No neighbor outside. Someone knew about the safe. And suddenly the money wasn't just a moral problem. It was a living problem. I checked my doorbell camera footage. There was a figure in a hoodie at 4:13 a.m. Face angled away, moving like they knew exactly where the camera pointed. They taped the note, then walked off without looking around. I paused on a frame where the porch light hit their hand. There was a tattoo on the wrist, a dark band, maybe a name. I felt nauseous, because it reminded me of someone I'd seen exactly twice at my dad's funeral. A man in his 50s who'd hugged my mom too long and said, "Ray would have wanted to be here." At the time I'd thought he was just an old family friend. Now I wasn't sure. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring, voice already tense like she'd been waiting for bad news. I told her about the safe, the money, the note. She started crying immediately. "Oh God," she whispered. "Ray's boy. It's Ray's boy." "What?" I said. "Your uncle had a son," she sobbed. "Your father helped him once. Years ago. Gave him money. He showed up sometimes asking questions. Your dad always sent him away." I felt the floor tilt. "Why didn't you tell me?" Because your father promised it was handled, she said. He promised. Nothing stays handled when money is buried in it. I hung up and just stood in my kitchen, staring at the note like it could explain itself. Claire came in, saw my face and went pale. "What do we do?" she asked, and for the first time my usual calm felt like a costume. I didn't feel in control. I felt like I was standing on someone else's old choices. We didn't call the police. I'm not proud of that, but fear does weird math. Fear makes you think you can outmaneuver consequences if you're careful enough. We did something else instead. We tried to buy safety. I texted Mark and told him to come over. I showed him the note and the camera clip. He went quiet, the true crime enthusiasm draining out of him. "You need to report this," he said, voice low. "I know," I said. "But if this is Ray's kid, if he thinks the money's his, then he's already committed to taking it," Mark said. "And now he knows you have it." Claire grabbed my arm. "We can just give it back," she said. "We can leave it somewhere. We can be done." That sounded like a solution. Clean, simple, like returning a lost wallet. So we made a plan. We'd put the cash in a duffel bag, leave it in the safe, and text my mom to pass a message. The money would be placed in the storage unit my parents used to rent, the one we cleared out. If Ray's kid had been sniffing around, he might know it. We'd leave the unit unlocked for one night. Let him take it. Let the problem leave with it. We were going to sacrifice the money to keep our lives. Except, the money had already been spent. 5,000 gone into the world. And we didn't have 5,000 in liquid savings without pulling from the kid's account. Claire looked at me like she already knew what I was thinking, and she whispered, "We can borrow it, just for a week. Then we'll replace it." I heard my own voice say, "Okay." That was the moment I realized money wasn't just driving the plot. It was driving me. We pulled the $5,000 from the kids' savings. We replaced the missing cash. I told myself I'd fix it later, that I'd repay it with overtime and discipline, that I wasn't becoming my dad. We put the duffel bag in the storage unit, left the door cracked, and drove home like we were disposing of a body. At 3 a.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered because fear makes you answer. A man's voice, calm and amused. "You almost did it right," he said. My throat tightened. "Who is this?" "You found my father's insurance policy," he said, like he was talking about a family heirloom. 50 years of waiting and you just buy it at a yard sale. That's funny. Couldn't breathe. "I don't know what you're talking about." He chuckled. "Sure. Listen, I picked up what you left. Appreciate the honesty. But you and I both know some of it already walked away. The world's not a storage unit. Cash moves." My hands started shaking so badly I had to sit on the kitchen floor. "We didn't." "Don't insult me," he said, voice sharpening. "I want the missing 5 by Friday, or I start making calls. Your job, your wife's job, your mother's landlord. I'm not even mad. I just don't like being shorted." Claire came into the kitchen and saw me on the floor, phone pressed to my ear. Her face crumpled when she heard the tone of the voice. I whispered, "We don't have it." The man laughed softly. "Then find it. You're the responsible one, right?" The call ended. That was the final unraveling. The false resolution, handing over the cash, had only bought us a new debt. We did end up calling the police the next day. I brought the note, the footage, the article, everything. I told them about the safe. I told them about the money. I did not tell them about the 5,000 at first, because shame is a powerful silencer. But I told them eventually, because fear of jail is louder than pride. The detective didn't look shocked. He looked tired, like he'd seen families rot from the inside out over less. They took my statement. They said they'd look into it. They warned us not to engage. Ray's kid, if that's who he is, hasn't called again. But the quiet isn't comforting. It's suspense. Claire paid her mom's bills with robbery money that was older than she is. I emptied my kids' savings to make stolen cash whole so I could give it back. My mom cried like she was apologizing for every secret she ever kept. And I can't stop thinking about the person I used to be. The guy with the spreadsheet who thought responsibility was just planning. Now, I know responsibility is also refusing to let money turn you into someone you don't recognize. Because it did. It absolutely did. Even if I never see that cash again, I'm still paying for it.